Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Matt Fifer, and you are here today for Show and Tell, one of our series with conversations on retail. And I'm here with my friend, George Koenig. He's the founder and CEO of Content Status, and we're going to hear all about that business. But George has got an interesting story, and I want to give him an opportunity to sort of tell that. George, welcome. Thank you so much for making the time to do this.
Hey, Matt. It's good to be here.
I love spending time with entrepreneurs and obviously digging into the details of the business, but I really like for people to spend some time introducing themselves. And I'd love to hear about, the early part of your life. And not, I don't want to talk about your favorite color and those sorts of things, but talk about your childhood, talk about your early interests and what it is that sort of drew you into this entrepreneurial life that you've been a part of for many, many years now.
Yeah, so my background has always been entrepreneurial. It's just in the blood for me. My father was an entrepreneur, so I get that and the sales aspects from him. I think from my mother, I get the creative side. So it's always been a really good mix. But my entrepreneurial background goes all the way back to, I think, when I was 12 years old. I went to my father and had drawn a whole kind of concept for indoor baseball training, right? Which is prevalent today, right? But in 1982, it wasn't. So I remember showing it to him, and he was really proud of that. And there's just a number of things that happened after that. When I was 18, I did my first business plan for an indoor golf session, which was downtown Cleveland. And then another one was a daycare for my sister, which got funded. So it's just always been involved either in these little projects or even some with my father as well.
Yeah, no, that's so interesting. My first job was when I was 10 years old, carrying newspapers. And you wouldn't think about that in terms of entrepreneurship, but knocking on doors every other Friday and collecting, and the bigger you smile, the bigger the tips. I mean, definitely sort of gotten your blood. And I was doing the same thing, writing business plans through junior high and high school, and it was a heck of a ride. Well, I don't want to move too quickly to Content Status, but talk about some of the early things that you've done entrepreneurially. Talk about what you've learned. Talk about successes and failures, and then ultimately sort of the big idea that brought you to starting your own company.
Yeah, so once I graduated from college, and I went to Cleveland State University here in Cleveland, which is a wonderful campus nowadays. I was that just working full time, paying my way through school type of person. My fun college days are with my friends down at Kent State, but other than that, me and my buddy, we would just go to school because we had to, and come back home and go to work. Right, so that's just kind of what was instilled in me. And that's really where we just started to get the different ideas, right? I mentioned that, that indoor golf facility. My dad had a golf franchise we did. Then I opened up with a college friend of mine, a fitness and martial art school that ended up being one of the largest in Ohio. And you just learn from every little step along the way, and what makes you successful. Why do clients like you? And I tell that I've spoken multiple times at my daughter's schools for, career day. And it always gets a really good amount of people to attend because they all want to know about being an entrepreneur and what it takes. And I just tell everybody, start early. It doesn't matter how big it is or if it wins or fails. You will learn just by doing the research, into it. So my first company was called buildohio.com. It was a contractor referral service that me and my best friend started in 99. I sold it a year later for next to nothing. And I joined a startup in Cleveland called EZ2 Technologies. There was originally three of us. John Koenig was the CEO and founder, and another gentleman, Carl Pearson. And it was great. It was three of us just bootstrapping a company. And then we slowly built the teams from there. And it was something to be proud of. We didn't build as fast because, we bootstrapped it, but we really started that whole enhanced content industry right here in Cleveland, right? So we were the first ones to do the interactive product demonstrations with the hotspots and the rotations. And we were the first ones to do syndication to retailers like Lowe's, right? And that was all the way back in 2000. And since then, I've made a career in product content. Unknowingly, I always like to joke that my high school guidance counselor never said that product content would be a career for me, but it has been, right? So it started in 2000 with Easy2. We ultimately sold it and merged with Web Collage, and I'm sure
Mhm,
everybody knows them as well.
mhm.
And after that, I left there, went above the fold syndication to Shot Farm out of Chicago. Had a great 5 years there, and that's where the concept for content status began.
Well, talk about that because I'd love to hear the story, that aha moment. Was there a problem that you thought needed to be solved? Was there some sort of a pain that you were experiencing, a wrong that needed to be right?
Yeah, there was. So it's kind of interesting. So those 18 years were spent in syndication, right? Content's been created, it's been managed in somebody's PIM, and now you needed to syndicate it out to the retailers and distributors. So that's what I knew. But then I just started getting questions of, well, we understand syndication, George, but no one can actually tell us if our content is live. Is it the most current version of it? Can you tell us what's even up there? We have no idea, right? These are companies like Procter and Gamble, Rust-Oleum, and just really big companies that I had worked with for so long. And it just started all of a sudden being asked. And I am an entrepreneur, so you don't have to bang me over the head too much to say, look,
Yeah,
there's something here. And one of the lessons I've learned as being an entrepreneur is by the time you think of it, several other people did too,
absolutely.
right? So if you want to do something, you do have to act. And Shot Farm, we knew that was going to get acquired, and it did soon thereafter by Syndigo. So I had proactively left to start the company, and had a whole vision for that company. And yeah, it was those initial conversations and testing that led to what we built.
And what was the original vision? And we'll talk in a minute about what the company is today, and maybe some of the. So what was the big vision, and what were some of the iterations that you've gone through in order to get to what it is today?
Yeah, so we wanted to answer the most basic questions. Are my products live? Is
Mm,
it complete? Is it accurate? Right. And so when we originally first started, we built a tool that would go out, look at your pages, and just answer those simple questions. And it's evolved where now it basically just goes to a page, brings everything back, and then gives you all the different insights you would ever want that's sitting on that page, whether it's how good is my content? Do I have opportunities to improve the experience? Is it accurate? Has someone changed it? How does it compare to what's my master version? Um, Price, availability, keyword usage. So it's really expanded to the depth, and that's because it's all driven from our clients, right?
mm.
Our users. And we started the company to be different. So this was a core foundational element, and something I use personally is do it differently if the customer is going to benefit. And so we were very familiar with some of the other big digital shelf auditing enterprise solutions out there, and they're all really good, absolutely very good. But they're all fighting over that top $1 billion CPG company, right?
Mm.
And we wanted to do it differently. So we wanted it that someone could go in with their credit card and start to see insights of their product pages in minutes instead of having to go through RFPs, budget, legal, and your 6 to 9 months before you see a single insight.
Yeah.
There is a better way. So we built the tool as a SaaS self-service tool that anybody can literally, you can go there now and get a free trial and start auditing in minutes. And it gives you everything that you need. And you don't need IT, you don't need a program. We have over 100 different sites, all the key retailers and distributors pre-built and connected. So we've just made it really easy.
Talk about sort of your sweet spot as a company, the types of brands that you're working with, and maybe give us an example of a specific project or job or something along those lines that you've done.
Yeah. So as far as kind of our customers, so it's used by brands, retailers, distributors, but we have a lot of partners, and it was part of our go-to-market strategy. Our resellers and referral companies, right? Companies like Azidia, Media Monks, One World Sync, Acosta, Advantage. So a lot of really great companies who had this need to provide these types of insights to all of their client bases, and not just in retail, but in B2B as well. We have a huge partnership with Idea for Industry, which is commercial electrical. And the need for a better shopping experience, there's no boundaries to that, right? Everybody needs to know it, right? So if we start to look at use cases, the tool will give you the answers to pretty much every use case. So it just depends on what you want to look for. People can go in there and from a single view, look at every one of their images across all their products. Everybody loves that view, right? That's a popular one. To just instead of going page by page, they can see everything at once. I'll give you another really good use case. Was a large sporting goods distributor on Walmart called me one day and she said, George, my buyer just said that we couldn't have any mentions of pistol, handgun, AK-47, and this is an outdoor sporting goods brand.
Hmm.
And she says, I've got 5,000 products. How am I going to look at all these? I said, all right, well, give me the short list or give me the full list of restricted words and let me get back to you. So within 2 hours, I sent her a spreadsheet. Now she could have looked at it in the tool, but I just sent her a spreadsheet with every page that had a mention of it, how many times it was mentioned, and where on the page it was. So something that would have taken her months literally just took her, it took me a couple hours to give her, the insights as to where it was. And then she just had to go in and make those changes, right? That's one use case of an absolute lot of them. It's other people are really concerned about the branding. Their name is spelled 4 different ways. There's no space between the 2 words. There's a dash, there's capitalization. That's another one. Miscategorization's another big one. We typically put out Friday fails on LinkedIn that highlights just crazy pages of content that we've found.
Yeah.
Right. So
well, that was sort of my next question. One of your campaign says your content sucks, which I love edgy, marketing messaging. But where are brands leaving something on the table? And you just provided a couple of great examples, but what are some other areas where brands are making mistakes or leaving money on the table because they're not able to see what you see or act upon the things that you have access to?
It's a great question. And over the years, and this is now my 24th year in product content, it's gotten a lot better. Brands are a lot smarter. The bigger companies have full teams of content people that are involved. There's good communication between sales and marketing and the owners of the data. So a lot of them know it, but it still absolutely amazes me, Matt, that after all these years, the amount of time and money and effort that gets spent into every new product launch and the product page experience is just, it sucks, right? You get one image, which everybody by now knows you just don't do one image. The titles are horrible. They don't have their brand name in it. It's a model number. It's just crazy what still goes on. And when you look at the marketplaces like an Amazon, a Walmart, a Target, a Macy's, and that's going to just continue to grow, you have to stand out and your content has to be good if you want to get that conversion and if you don't want that conversion to come back as a return, right? Yeah. So the biggest thing that we get asked and is the right question is, where are my opportunities to improve our conversions?
Yeah.
Right. And the easiest way, everybody spends all this money on pricing analysis and shipping and logistics, and they should, but they just kind of skip over the core basics that they have to have. And so our advice is maximize the opportunity the retailer is giving you, maximize your title length, make sure you're using descriptions, use your feature bullets, right? And people are like, we don't know how to write that. I just did we do webinars all the time with our partners. We did one for Idea for Industry, it's the commercial electrical. And I said, look, you have to change your thinking in B2B because every one of your B2B buyers are also consumers and they're used to a consumer shopping experience, right? And I said, look, a lot of you guys sell switches and dimmers and all sorts of things. I pulled up a page on Lowe's that had a switch plate, 72 cents. And it had a 360 rotation, 8 images, and a 82 character length title, description, and bullets.
Hmm.
If they can do that, and they do it because Lowe's and Depot require them to because they know that impact, then everybody can do that. Right. So take it full advantage of the opportunities they give and stop thinking about doing the minimum to get it live.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff. It seems like the whole world has changed in the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm wondering how your business changed, and I'm wondering also what does the future look like? What are some of the things that you're working on today in anticipation of the changes that are in sight now, and the things that you're sort of projecting into the future?
Um, that's a good question. So over the last couple of years, it didn't impact our business at all, frankly,
Hmm.
right? Because everybody was buying more online.
Hmm.
So and all of our customers, that's where they're at. But if anything, it helped simply because people were buying more online, but in categories they never bought before. Groceries
Yeah.
a perfect example. I never bought my groceries online. Now we buy it all the time. We're probably
Mhm.
60% buy online versus go in store. And whether you're having it shipped at home, whether you're picking it up, like curbside, or you're going into the store, product content is always there. And I think
Mhm.
that's what a lot of people have learned. So they're paying more and more attention to that experience, regardless of the channel it's being bought in. As far as where it's going, um, the old joke is, the internet's a fad, right? We all joked about that. And,
Mhm.
every time it's a real pain for us. Oh, it's just a fad; it'll go away. But we all know that it's the core of everything. It's the percentage of sales online continue to grow. Um, what do I see is the biggest change coming? It's the use of AI, right?
Yeah.
Especially for content creation. It works well, right? We've all played around with Chat GPT by now and tested some
Mhm.
things, and it works well. My recommendation with it is that to look for a managed API or AI service because you do have to train these things.
Mhm.
And if you have someone who knows how to do it, it's just going to be that much faster. Right. So
Yeah.
we have one partner, Azidia, and all these companies who do things manually, they're charging 80, 90, $100 per item to just to rewrite the content for you. And it has to be done. Well, now they're offering that for less than $10,
Yeah.
right? And now you're doing them in the hundreds at a time. But someone has to train that model for that brand.
Mhm.
So it's not just as simple as, oh, I'm going to use AI. You still have, there's a lot of effort in knowing that, but there's really no more excuses for people not to have good content because now it's automated.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to sort of the beginning, if you will, and talk about your entrepreneurial journey. Obviously being involved in startups from a very early age, at least as a dreamer, and then working through several. And what's it been? I don't know, not necessarily what's it been like leading your own, but what have you picked up along the way that has sort of impacted your perspective and your approach as you're now leading your own startup, leading your own company?
Wow. Um, what haven't I picked up? Right?
Yeah.
Because um, I was prepared for the experience because I came from sales. So I
Mm.
understood that. I understood the pressures of sales and growing sales for a startup. Um, and I understood the whole startup environment and what it takes, multiple hats, and the type of people that needed to be on your team to make it work. So I understood all that. I think and still it's absolutely been the hardest thing I've had to do ever, because now you're dealing with more than just sales.
Mhm.
Right now, it's everything, and it's knowing everything. Now, the good part about being an entrepreneur today is if you don't know something, there's no reason for you to not know it because Google's a
Yeah,
click away.
sure.
So lots of time just constantly reading things that, all right, the company's now going to enter this phase. What do we need? And there's a ton of just great resources to do that. But I've, I've I've learned just endless numbers of things, and you hear about entrepreneurs who are more successful the second time around and third time
Yeah,
around.
yeah,
Absolutely, because then it's just like anything else you do. By repetition, you know exactly what to do, and a lot of that learning time is gone.
yeah. What would you say you're the most proud of?
Well, personally wise, and then professionally wise. Let me answer the professional wise. I'm really proud of what we built because we've had a lot of really good people involved to get us to where we're at today. And we feel that the tool or the solution is really second to nothing that's out there. It's a leader, and it's because all we do is focused on it. So every week we're launching something that's building it. So we're really proud. It's nice when you see our brand out there and people talking about it and reading our reports and such. So definitely proud for all of us that are involved. Personally wise, and it was kind of a rule that I made going into this, and it's something that I've advised other entrepreneurs. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, to me, there's almost like that bell curve of when you should and shouldn't. Do it when you're in your early 20s and teens, play around. You've got nothing to lose because once you have a family, it's really, really hard to do that.
Yeah,
But then on that downside, now the kids start, growing up, and now that time comes back. But the rule that I set out, Matt, was we have a 17-year-old daughter. She was 14 when I started this. And I said, I'm not missing anything, right? Because no matter what happens with the company, I will not get this time back. So
yeah,
that has been my number one priority for everything. And being that our company is 100% remote, so I'm here when she goes to school. I'm here when she gets back. I stop what I'm doing. I go up. I talk with her for a few minutes, with my wife, and then I'm back to it. But volleyball, cheerleading, lacrosse, I've missed 2 events in 4 years, and they were both
yeah,
due to COVID, so they were kind of outside, right? I've done it with, after 2 weeks, being in hospital with double pneumonia, that day I came out, I went to her game, right? And that
yeah,
was the first year of the company. And then a couple years ago, I fell out of a tree and tore up my leg,
mm,
and still went to all the events with the brace, drove her to school with the brace. So that was just always my priority, and it's really absolutely the most thing that I'm proud about and super glad I kind of laid that rule down.
yeah. I think it's just sort of a personal thing. I think a lot of entrepreneurs make entrepreneurship look like a lot of fun to their kids, and then you end up sort of passing it on that
Hmm.
sort of entrepreneurial bug to the next generation. And I think that there are others that make it look like an absolutely miserable experience. There is no balance, and our kids want absolutely nothing to do with it. So it's great that you have at least given your daughter an opportunity to decide for herself based on having a great experience. It sounds like with her father in the process. So well done, you. George, what is the very best way for someone who's interested in learning more about content status to engage you or someone on the team for more information?
Yeah. Actually, before I answer that, I want to follow up on that. So it's interesting enough, it does follow through. So when my daughter was 5 years old, I was out on a driveway with her, and she was carrying this little table towards the end of the driveway, and we're in a cul-de-sac. And I end up looking down. She set up a whole table like a little store selling pop,
Hmm.
right? And I looked, and I was just had this huge grin of pride. And I
Hmm.
went down there and I looked at her sign, and I looked at her inventory, and there were Bud Lights in there. So I'm like, all right, well, that's not good.
Right?
And then it was hilarious, but it wasn't good. And then the price was free. So I said, all right, well, we're going to have to talk a little bit about
Right.
strategy as we go on. But I took a lot of pictures of that, and I'm just super proud because it does get handed down. And
Yeah.
I think entrepreneurialism is really hard to teach and learn.
Mm.
I think it's just so much better if it's embedded. So, but back to that side, you can just our site has all the information you want. We got a lot of great industry reports up there where we studied, Black Friday results. What are the Amazon bestsellers doing? We've got them for the alcohol and beverage group, industrial. It's all over the board. So those are all there. They're free for download. You can learn about that. But you could always reach out directly to me, George K at contentstatus.com, sales at contentstatus.com, whatever you wish. And we love talking with people. We're still, we're that size company that we just love talking with people and sharing and helping. Right. So whatever the need, just give us a ring.
Yeah. Well, you've created a powerful and an incredibly intuitive set of tools, and I know that folks are going to be really excited to dig into the website and learn more. And then obviously have conversations with you and your team. George Koenig, founder and CEO of Content Status. It's been a real pleasure spending some time with you, and look forward to talking with you again soon.